Hello my crafty friends, this is Monica from Allsewpetite. Welcome back to my channel. If you are looking for a quick and easy project with a Christmas theme, this tutorial is for you. In this video, you will learn how to make this adorable snowflake zipper pouch. To make this pouch, you will need to download the Snowflake template from my website. The link can be found in the description box below. I will show you both the applique and reverse applique methods, so you can choose whichever method is best for you. In addition to making a simple zipper pouch, just like this, you can use a snowflake template to add a snowflake applique to other projects, such as pillowcase, table runner, tote bags, placemats, and so much more. If you want to learn how to make this snowflake zipper pouch, then keep on watching. To begin, you will have to decide if you want to make the snowflake applique. So that means you're going to use the snowflake template to cut a snowflake from a non-frame fabric, such as cork, vinyl, or faux leather, because we are going to leave raw edges. Or maybe you prefer to do the reverse applique, which means you need to use the snowflake template to cut the shape out of the non-frame fabric, and then you will need to add additional fabric behind to use the reverse applique method. As you can see, I have the fabric cut and prepped already for both of my pouches, and I'm going to give you a quick overview what type of fabric I'm using. So I have the snowflake template cut out from faux leather, and then I have cotton fabric, both on the external and lining pieces. So to make this pouch, I have cut a square fabric that is 20 centimeter by 20 centimeter. That's both on the external pieces and lining pieces, and I interfaced the back of my fabric with some woven interfacing. I'm going to keep this pouch nice and squishy and soft. Then I have additional piece of fabric for the zipper tab, which is 3.5 centimeters by 5 centimeters. So we need one of them. And I have a continuous zipper here, which I have cut the same length. So it's 20 centimeters long. So that's for this pouch. Now, to make the reverse applique pouch, I decided to use the faux leather for the external pieces. So I have 2 squares cut out. Then I cut another piece that is just slightly smaller from woven fabric that I interfaced with woven interfacing. So I have this beautiful effect. And then I have 2 lining pieces from woven cotton fabric. And then I have a scrap piece of faux leather fabric, so I can use it to make my zipper tab. And then we have the zipper, which is again the same length as my pouch. To start, let's put all those pieces aside and take one of your external piece with your snowflake template. So I'm going to make the applique method first, and I'm going to fold my fabric in half to find the midpoint. Here we go. Then we can take our snowflake. I'm going to use some double-sided tape. So I have a very narrow 2-3 millimeters and 1/8 of an inch double-sided tape, and I'm going to place it on the back of my snowflake just to hold it in place while I'm sewing. So the reason why I'm using such a narrow double-sided tape is to avoid having the tape at the edges of my fabric. This way I don't have to worry about sewing through the double-sided tape, which might gunk out my needle. So I'm going to do this on each arm of my snowflake. Here we go. Then with right sides facing up, so both the snowflake and the external fabric is facing up, I'm going to center my snowflake on top, press it with my fingers so the double-sided tape sticks to the fabric. Here we go. And then we're going to take this to the machine and we're going to top stitch at the edge of the white fabric. So at the edge of your snowflake template, you're going to just top stitch about 2 millimeters and 1/8 of an inch from that edge. Go all around the snowflake. So you can leave a long thread tail on the beginning and the end, and then we can pull it to the back to tie a knot. This way we have a nice and neat finish. Here we go. So then you're going to pull your thread tails to the back of the fabric. And we can tie a knot to secure them in place. Here we go. And just trim the excess. If you are doing the reverse applique method, you will need to take your external piece with that cutout and the backing fabric, and we're going to place the external piece on top of the backing fabric, just like that. Make sure you line it up so you have enough fabric around all sides. So I cut the piece larger than it has to be, just to make sure it is much easier for me to stitch and align everything. I can always trim it down after I top stitch my fabric. So this is what I'm going to do. So now we're going to use double-sided tape again, just to hold everything in place. So we can flip it over and apply the double-sided tape just along those longer pieces and maybe just around my snowflake, just to make sure my fabric doesn't shift while I'm top stitching. Alright, once you have your double-sided tape applied, you're going to remove the backing. Here we go. Then what I like to do is to take my backing fabric and place it right side down on top of the external piece. So I center it and then press it with my fingers so the double-sided tape can stick to the fabric. If you are using fabric with directional print, you may want to place the external fabric on top of the backing fabric so you can see exactly what you are doing. However, because my fabric is non-directional print, I prefer to do it from the wrong side. So next we're going to take this to the machine, and similarly to the applique method, we are going to top stitch along the edge of the fabric. However, this time you are going to do this on the outside of the snowflake, all around the cutout. Then you can take your scissors and simply trim the backing fabric slightly, so it's not going to go inside the seam allowance to reduce the bulk. So I'm just going to trim it roughly around all sides. Next we're going to prep our zipper tabs. So first we're going to fold the shorter edges towards the wrong side of the fabric by about 1 centimeter, just like that. Press it with an iron. And then we're going to do that on the other side. press it with an iron. Next, you're going to take your zipper and we're going to wrap the end of the zipper. So here is the opening and here is the end of the zipper. You're going to wrap the end of the zipper with your zipper tab, just like that. So you're basically enclosing the zipper inside. I'm going to clip that in place. And then we're going to take this to the machine and we're going to top stitch along that folded edge. If you are using non-fraying fabric on your zipper tab, you can cut it slightly shorter because we are not going to fold those two edges the same way we've done on the cotton fabric. Instead, I have cutted this piece 3.5 centimeter by 3.5 centimeter. So when I take my zipper, I can simply wrap the zipper tab around the edge of my zipper, just like that. Make sure your zipper tab ends are at the same place. Then when I clip this, I'll be able to take this to the machine and again top stitch along that edge. Once you have that ready, you can take scissors and just trim the zipper tab to the same width as your zipper. From this point, the assembly is exactly the same, so I'm going to use this fabric to show you how to finish our zipper pouch. So next, what I like to do is to take my external pieces and measure 1.5 centimeter or 5/8 of an inch along the top edge of my fabric from the side edges. So I would measure 1.5 centimeter, 5/8, and then on this side make a little notch. So that will be the position of my zipper, and do the same thing on the back piece. Next, we need to trim the zipper to the required length, because at this point my zipper is a little bit too long. So if you want, you can measure the distance between your notches and then measure the same distance from the edge of your zipper tab, measure it and mark it. Otherwise, you can just place your zipper on top, place the edge of your zipper at the notch, and then use the other notch to mark the length of your zipper, just like that. So you can do that on both sides. I'm going to use this notch to mark it on the other side of my zipper. Here you go. Then we're going to fold our zipper by 90 degrees. So when you have that notch, you're going to pinch your zipper at that notch, just like that, fold it onto itself, and then you're going to bring that fold towards the zipper teeth or the zipper coil. So I'm going to hold it tight and then fold it by 90 degrees. Here we go. And then I can use my pin to just pin this in place so it doesn't unfold, just like that. So I'm going to double check if my zipper is the right length. So here is my notch, here is my notch, everything looks good. So then we're going to do that on the other side. There you go. So fold it, keep it tight, and then line up the edge, just like that. Pin this. Double check if your zipper ends are at the same place, so both sides of your zipper are at the same length. Then if you are happy with everything, you're going to take this to the machine and we're going to top stitch the edge of the zipper just to hold that fold in place. When this is ready, take your scissors and trim the excess zipper. Make sure you don't use your fabric scissors for that. Now you can take your external front piece and we're going to place the zipper around the top edge between those two notches. So at this point you will need to decide which direction you want the zipper to open, from left to right or right to left, and place the zipper in that direction. So I like my zippers to open from left to right, so I'm going to flip the zipper so the right side of the zipper is facing the right side of the fabric, and I'm going to align it along the top edge between those two notches and clip that in place. Here we go. Then we're going to take this to the machine and we're going to baste the zipper 2 millimeters from the edge. Then you can take your front lining piece and place it right side facing down. So right sides of our fabrics are facing each other. Line up the edges and then you can clip it in place. Next, we're going to take this to the machine and we're going to sew the seam using 5 millimeters seam allowance. Once you have that stitched, you're going to separate the pieces and we're going to press the seam allowance towards the external fabric. So the seam allowance is pointing down in my situation. Then you can press the seam flat. So if you are using non-fraying fabric such as cork, vinyl or for leather, you may want to skip this step. And then we're going to top stitch along that finished seam. Next, you're going to bring those two pieces wrong sides together and you can press the seam flat again. Now we're going to repeat the steps for the back pieces. So take your external back, place it on top. Right sides are facing each other. You can line it up, so flip it over so you can see what you're doing, and line up the zipper between those two notches again and clip that in place. Here we go. If you want, you can go to the machine and baste that. Otherwise, take your lining and with right sides facing down, so right sides of the lining pieces are facing each other. You're going to place it on top, line up the top edge, and you can move the clips to hold everything in place. Here you go. And then we're going to take this to the machine and sew the seam using 5 millimeters seam allowance. Next, you're going to open the panels and we need to press the seam allowance towards the external fabric. So again, the seam allowance is pointing down in my situation. You can press that flat. Then we're going to take this to the machine top stitch along that finished seam, and then we're going to bring those two pieces together and press the seam flat. This is how it should look like. So you have your external fabric on one side, the lining fabric on the other side. So to finish our zipper pouch, you'll need to open the zipper halfway through, then bring the external pieces right sides together and your lining pieces right sides together. Line them up. So I like to start where the zipper is. So I first line up my seams, clip them on both sides. Here we go. And then I can line up the side edges and the bottom edge, both on the external and lining pieces. So let's do that. So once you are ready, you're going to take this to the machine and we're going to sew the seams using 1 centimeter seam allowance around all sides. However, we need to remember to leave an opening somewhere around the bottom edge of the lining so we can turn the pouch right side out. So I'm going to take my marking tool so I don't forget it. And I'm going to mark notches just so I know I have an opening to turn the pouch right side out. So we're going to start here, go around all sides, and then we're going to end here. Once you are ready, you can take your scissors and trim the corners slightly. So when we turn the pouch right side out, it's much easier for us to make our corners. So make sure you don't trim it too close to the stitching line, otherwise the fabric may fray and you may end up with a hole. So next, using the opening in your lining, you're going to insert your hand through the opening, open the zipper completely, and then you can pull the pouch right side out. So to ensure we have a nice neat corners on top of our pouch where the zipper is, what I like to do is to reach inside through that opening in the lining, and I like to open the seam allowance. So you would open the seam allowance at the crossing of your stitching of your seams, just like that. Then place the lining on top of the external fabric, making sure you have your seam allowance open. So I would just place it like this. Here you go. So it's nice and flat. Then with my finger and my thumb, I would flip the fabric to the right side. So keep it tight and flip it to the other side, just like that. So you have a nice and flat seam. This way, when you push your zipper tab and your seam, you have a nice and neat corner. And you do that on the other side of your zipper. So again, reach inside, open the seam allowance, just like that. Place the lining on top of the external piece. Here you go, and push it with your fingers. So it is much easier to do it on the side of your zipper where there is no zipper tab. This is much easier. Here we go. And so this is how the zipper pouch looks like. So next, if you are happy with everything, if your corners are nice and neat, you're going to pull your lining out of the pouch, because we need to close the opening in the lining. So to do that, you're going to fold the edges by 1 centimeter, because that's the seam allowance. So you're going to fold it towards the wrong side of the fabric, just like that. If you want, you can clip them or pin them in place. So I'm going to use my clips. Then either take this to the machine and top stitch along that folded edge about 2 millimeters from the edge, just to close the opening. Or if you want more of a neat finish, you can close the opening by hand using a ladder stitch. And just like that, you finished your snowflake zipper pouch. So if you have to give your pouch a final press, otherwise this project is completed. See you next time. Stay crafty, friends.